I was just trying to sell the RV to help my wife's company through a crisis, but I never expected the appraisal center to tell me that all my assets were fake. The property deed was a forgery, the car's bill of sale was a fake, and even my designer watches and bags were just high-end replicas. To make matters worse, the bank flatly rejected my loan application, stating I had no assets to offer as collateral. I argued that my wife had property and assets in her name, all of which were marital property. But the bank replied that they could find no record of my marriage. It turned out that even our marriage certificate was a fake. Fortunately, the $10 million promissory note she signed when she borrowed my money to start her company was real. Mr. Miller, our system shows your status as unmarried, and you have no assets in your name to use as collateral, so we have rejected your loan application. Please feel free to call again if you have any issues. Listening to the bank employee's flat, indifferent voice, I felt a sense of disbelief. How was that possible? I pulled out my marriage certificate, staring at the little red booklet I had kept in perfect condition. Could this too be a fake? As I stood there stunned, I heard a key turn in the lock. It was my wife, Chloe. She stretched, looking utterly exhausted, and walked into the bedroom. "Ethan," she said, "I spent all day running between banks again, but I finally managed to secure a small loan." Her eyes fell upon the items spread across our bed. The property deed, the car's bill of sale, designer watches, belts, and cufflinks. For a split second, her pupils constricted. "What are you looking for?" she asked. A moment later, as if realizing her slip, she smoothly began gathering everything, forcing a light smile. "Why take all these valuables out?" I wasn't ready for a confrontation just yet, so I answered casually, "I was thinking of selling them. The company's cash flow is tight, and I want to help." But Chloe, as if boneless, melted into my arms, her lips brushing against my jaw in a feather-light kiss. Her arms wrapped around my neck as she spoke with grave sincerity. "No matter how tough things get, I won't let you suffer. I'll use my own savings to settle the company's accounts. You've endured so much with me over the years, and I swore I would always take care of you. I will never break that promise." Her expression was tender, her honey-colored amber eyes reflecting my own image, as if she truly loved me to her core. But I felt a deep, piercing chill spread through my body. I knew for a fact that everything on that bed, all those seemingly priceless items, were fakes. They were utterly worthless, just like my marriage to Chloe. The next moment, Chloe's phone rang. She sat up, her expression suddenly serious. She threw on the jacket she'd just taken off and rushed to leave. Pausing at the door, she turned back. "Ethan, something urgent came up at the office. You'll probably have to get dinner on your own." This wasn't the first time she'd rushed out like this. I used to just assume she was busy with work and never gave it a second thought. But now, as the company's vice president, I couldn't think of any urgent business that would require someone to contact Chloe directly. I looked at Chloe intently and suddenly said, "I'll give you a ride." The hand holding her purse froze. She seemed hesitant, forcing a smile. "You've had a long day too. Don't worry about it. Just stay home and rest." I didn't give her a chance to refuse, insisting on seeing her off. The moment we stepped outside, I understood her reluctance. Her first love, Leo Harrison, was waiting in the driveway, behind the wheel of a dark green sports car. Leo lowered the sunroof, waving with a grin. "Chloe, what took you so long?" The car's design was painfully familiar. It was the limited edition model Chloe had supposedly bought for me, the very same one listed on that fraudulent bill of sale. Chloe had been making excuses for months, saying it was stuck in customs and would be delivered later. Yet here was Leo driving it. Judging by the wear on the tires, he'd already put a few hundred miles on it. A shiver ran down my spine as a ridiculous thought took hold. Leo was her first love. Could it be that the car was always meant for him? I kept my voice even. "Chloe, I thought you said this was a limited edition model. How does Leo have one too?" Leo didn't even bother to get out of the driver's seat. He just smirked, completely unabashed. "Ethan, this is your car. I just picked it up for you to save you the trip. No need to thank me." Chloe shot me a look of feigned helplessness and whispered, "If it bothers you, I'll tell him to get out." My hands clenched into fists at my sides. Chloe had always doted on me. She once fired our entire housekeeping staff because a maid had touched one of my suits without wearing gloves. Yet when it came to Leo's blatant arrogance, she was always passive. It wasn't the first time I'd been angry about Leo over the years. But Chloe always had a clever excuse, claiming that firing him would make it look like she had something to hide. Keeping him on staff, she argued, proved there was nothing between them. And like a fool, I actually believed her. If I hadn't stumbled upon all this while trying to save the company, I'd probably still be telling myself I was just being petty. Shaking my head, I regained my composure. "It's fine," I said calmly. "There are some things I think I need to go confirm for myself." I feigned generosity. "Since you have a ride, you two should get going. I was out myself today, and I'm pretty tired." Chloe's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Where did you go?" "I still have some savings, don't I?" I explained. "I went to the bank to withdraw it for the company." The next moment, Chloe rushed forward and threw her arms around me, holding me tight. Her head was buried in my chest, her voice thick with emotion. "Ethan, I'm so lucky to have you. As soon as this crisis is over, I'll give you a promotion and a raise. I'll buy you an even better house and car, okay?" The old me would have held her close and told her it was the least I could do. Now I just felt sick. I firmly pushed her away. "All right, stop it. The great CEO needs to get to work." I stood there for a long time, watching until the green sports car disappeared around the corner. A sarcastic smile touched my lips. Chloe was still trying to sell me a dream. How naive did she think I was? But she seemed to have forgotten that when she wanted to start her business, she borrowed $10 million from me and wrote out a promissory note right in front of me. $10 million was more than enough to bankrupt a company already struggling with its cash flow. Seeing her true colors had cleared my mind. I took the promissory note to a law firm to have it authenticated. The lawyer, Mr. Davis, examined it, nodded, and smiled. "This is legally binding. According to the terms, this loan was due for repayment 3 years ago. You can petition the court to enforce collection at any time." I let out a bitter laugh. Should I consider myself lucky? At least the promissory note was real. On this one thing, she hadn't lied. My voice was strained as I said, "Mr. Davis, I need to discuss something with you in detail this evening. Please make some time for me." Because before that, I had something more important to do. I took the forged marriage certificate to the county clerk's office to look up the certificate number. I had a feeling Chloe wouldn't just invent a fake out of thin air, just like with the sports car. I couldn't believe it, but I actually found a record for that certificate number. The groom was Leo Harrison. The bride was Chloe Vance. And the date they registered their marriage was the day before my own wedding to Chloe. I crushed the fake certificate in my hand. So my marriage to Chloe had been a lie from the very beginning. I remembered our wedding day, how she couldn't meet my eyes, how unusually sweet and gentle she was. I thought it was shyness. Now I realized it was guilt. With a grim expression, I looked up the deed for the house Chloe had bought me. The owner of record was, of course, Leo Harrison. I recalled the appraiser mentioning that the packaging for my luxury goods was authentic, just not the items inside. Chloe had likely bought the real things and simply swapped them with fakes. It was obvious who received the genuine articles. Armed with a mountain of irrefutable proof, I went home and, for the first time, tried to open Chloe's personal laptop. She had warned me repeatedly never to touch it, claiming it was full of sensitive company files. Trusting her, I had never even considered it. Now, with trembling hands, I typed in Leo's birthday. It unlocked. Even though I was half expecting it, the reality of it still sent a jolt through my heart. Inside, I found an alternate Instagram account Chloe used to talk to Leo. They even had matching profile pictures. Chloe's contact name for him was My Sunday. Her own screen name was The Sun Is Mine. Their chat history was endless. The most recent exchange went like this. Leo wrote, full of indignation, "Chloe, I'm just an assistant. Everyone at the office says I'm not good enough for you, and it's driving me crazy. You have to help me put Ethan in his place." Chloe had replied instantly, "Of course, I'll pick the right moment, kick him out of the company, and make sure he leaves with nothing." How does that sound? My hand tightened on the mouse. I let out a cold snort. Kick me out of the company? Leave me with nothing? Chloe seemed to have conveniently forgotten all about that promissory note. Right now, her company was facing a cash flow crisis. I was eager to see who would be kicked out when my court summons arrived. In an act of self-torture, I spent the entire afternoon reading through every single one of their messages. With Leo, Chloe was always the talkative one. She shared every detail of her life like a giddy teenager, even getting jealous if he spoke too long with a female colleague. With me, her concern was always polite, measured, and routine. I used to find it comforting. Now I saw it was just an act. As I scrolled through their history, a new iMessage from Chloe popped up. "Ethan, you didn't look well today. I ordered you some dinner. It should be there soon." I finally looked up from the screen and saw that it was already dark outside. The old me would have been touched by her message, overjoyed by her thoughtfulness. But their chat logs told a different story. When Leo lost his appetite, Chloe would cook for him personally, even spoon-feeding him. The difference between love and obligation couldn't have been clearer. But why go to all this trouble to deceive me for 7 years? Why the elaborate cover-up? Did she still see some use for me? I can still picture her signing that promissory note, holding my hand with tears in her eyes, promising she would never let me down. I thought we were in love. Now, I felt like I was looking at a complete stranger. Snapping out of it, I picked up my phone and replied with a single K. The old me would have sent back a long message about how much I loved her. Chloe didn't seem to notice the difference, simply sending back a goofy dragon meme. A dragon meme she had clearly copied from Leo, as their chat history proved. I'd always found it odd that she used that meme. Now I realized all the clues had been there all along. I stopped wallowing in self-pity. I took a screen recording of their entire chat history for evidence. Once that was done, I headed straight for Mr. Davis's office. After I explained everything, the lawyer thought for a moment. Mr. Miller, this promissory note is perfectly legal. I can draft a lawsuit for you immediately. However, your wife is the registered agent of the corporation. If the company goes bankrupt, she will be held primarily responsible for its debts. He paused, then added tactfully, I understand how you feel, but spouses have joint liability for debts. If you force her into bankruptcy, you'll also suffer significant financial losses. You should reconsider. I just smiled. Mr. Davis, we aren't actually married. Our certificate is a fake. The lawyer's eyes widened. Thinking it was my own clever planning, he gave me a thumbs up. Mr. Miller, you have incredible foresight. Excellent. I'll draft the lawsuit for you right now. I just smiled faintly without saying a word. It wasn't my foresight. This was all Chloe's own doing. As I left the law firm, my gaze fell on a newspaper at a nearby newsstand. The entire front page was dedicated to a single headline: Business magnate Chloe Vance spares no expense, winning antique brooch for beloved husband at auction. The article gushed about how much Chloe adored me, how she'd spent fortunes on me in the past, and how this latest purchase proved she was the epitome of a devoted wife. I laughed bitterly. Looking back on our 7 years together, everyone thought Chloe was a ride-or-die wife who was madly in love with me. The moment the company turned a profit, she spent it all on me, buying me a mansion and a luxury car. In the face of everyone's praise, she would just lean shyly on my shoulder, look up at me with deep affection, and say, Ethan has been with me since I had nothing. I wouldn't be where I am today without him. He's my everything. And I would get lost in her loving gaze. Though I sometimes felt a pang of jealousy over her interactions with Leo, I always believed I was the one she loved. I was the winner. Now I saw that I had lost completely. I walked home slowly and began to pack my things. The thought that I was living in Leo's house made my skin crawl. I couldn't stand it for another second. Usually, when Chloe had business dinners, she wouldn't be home until the early hours of the morning. But tonight, she came home surprisingly early. Seeing me packing a suitcase, her eyes narrowed. Ethan, are you going somewhere? I didn't stop folding my clothes. Just decluttering, I replied calmly. Some of this stuff is old. I don't like it anymore. Time to get rid of it. Chloe looked surprised. I'd always been frugal, often wearing the same clothes for years. But she didn't question me, just smiled indulgently. Okay, throw out whatever you don't want. I'll buy you new things. Then she paused, her tone shifting. Ethan, the company really is in a tight spot. We could really use your savings. Don't worry, I'll pay you back as soon as I can. It dawned on me. She was back early for my savings. Leo must have put her up to it. This time, I sat up straight and said, half joking, is that so? Well, you'll have to pay me back with maximum interest. Chloe thought I was just kidding, playing along. After all, I'd given her my entire life savings to start the company without a second thought. In the 7 years since, I had never once asked her for money. She grinned from ear to ear. I'll write you an IOU right now. I watched calmly as she meticulously wrote out the note, signed it, and affixed her personal seal. She was walking right into her own trap. She had no one to blame but herself. I wondered how she planned to pay back this new $5 million loan after I collected on the first one and her company went under. I flicked the fresh promissory note, feeling a surge of satisfaction. I yawned and gently pushed her out of the room. It's late, Chloe. Why don't you sleep in the guest room tonight? I still have some packing to do and I don't want to disturb you. Holding the debit card, she smiled and told me to get some rest too. I slept soundly. The next day, I gathered all the fake luxury goods Chloe had given me over the years and headed to the office, ready for a final confrontation. As soon as I walked through the doors, I was met with a roar of voices. The company was in the middle of a celebration. On a makeshift stage, Chloe was smiling as she handed the official letter of appointment for the vice president position to Leo. The employees below erupted in thunderous applause. It was clear this had all been planned in advance, and I was the only one left out of the loop. I stood in the doorway and asked calmly, "And what about me?" Chloe looked nervous. She pulled me aside and whispered, "Ethan, I'm just trying to lighten your workload so you won't be so tired. Be a good boy and listen. From now on, you can just relax at home and let other people handle the work." The old me might have fallen for her sweet talk, believing she was genuinely concerned for my well-being. But I knew the truth now. This was all about giving Leo my position. So I furrowed my brow, putting on a hurt expression. "But I want to help you," I said, my voice full of feigned sorrow. "I don't want Leo to take my job. Unless you still have feelings for him." Chloe's frown deepened, but before she could speak, Leo, still on the stage, scoffed loudly. "Ethan, cut the crap. Are you really going to argue with the CEO? Whose company is this, hers or yours? You're just a freeloader who's gotten good at playing a part." He stood there in a bespoke suit, looking every bit the arrogant new VP. The suit was clearly from Chloe's personal tailor. I figured Leo felt his victory was secure, so he dropped the act. But Chloe didn't get angry at his outburst. Instead, she turned to me. "Ethan, my mind is made up. Please don't make this difficult." With that, she began to applaud, signaling for everyone else to congratulate Leo on his promotion. With the CEO leading the way, the crowd quickly joined in, showering Leo with praise. "Congratulations, Mr. Harrison. We're all counting on you and Ms. Vance to lead us," another chimed in. "I always said Mr. Harrison was destined for great things." I was the only one in the room who didn't move. Leo basked in the flattery, a smug look on his face. When he noticed my silence, his eyes glinted with malice. He decided to press the issue. "Ethan, everyone else is congratulating me. You're not. Is it because you don't respect me?" Chloe, her attention fully on Leo, gave my sleeve a gentle tug. "Just play along for Leo's sake," she pleaded. "It's a celebration. Don't make a scene." I remained silent, letting out a short, cold laugh. Chloe's expression soured instantly. "Ethan, if you keep this up, I'm going to get angry," she threatened in a low voice. In the past, I would have complied without her needing to ask a second time. Now, seeing I was unmoved, her eyes flashed with anger. "Ethan, I was going to let you keep a position at the company," she snapped. "But if you keep acting like a child, I'll have no choice but to send you packing." All I felt was a deep, biting sarcasm. A smile played on my lips as I took a step forward. Chloe seemed to think I was finally giving in, and her expression relaxed. In the next instant, I bent down, scooped up the pile of fake luxury goods at my feet, and hurled them at Chloe and Leo. "A gift for the CEO and the new VP, I announced. "I hope you like it." The forged deeds, contracts, ties, belts, and watches rained down on them like confetti. Chloe instinctively moved to shield Leo, taking the hard corner of a fake property deed to her forehead, which immediately started to swell and turn red. Staring at the documents scattered across the floor, the entire room fell silent, completely stunned. No one could understand why I, the mild-mannered husband, would suddenly lash out at my adoring wife. Chloe was stunned too, but then a look of realization crossed her face. Ignoring the welt on her forehead, she blurted out, "Ethan, let me explain." I laughed coldly. "Explain what? You and Leo can be as happy as you want together. Just leave me out of it. You both make me sick." Chloe's face went pale, a panicked look in her eyes. "It's not like that," she stammered. She struggled for words, then finally steeled herself and looked at me with a pleading expression. "Leo only had his name on the deeds, but you were the one who actually lived the luxurious life, the one everyone envied. Couldn't I grant him that one small thing?" The way she framed it, I was the one being unreasonable, and poor Leo was the victim who had suffered a terrible injustice. I never dreamed Chloe was capable of twisting reality like that. The crowd, however, was eating up the drama, whispering amongst themselves. Leo just stood there with a defiant smirk, as if to say, "Yeah, that's right, the secret's out." He swaggered over, draping an arm around Chloe's shoulders. "So now you know," he said, his voice dripping with triumph. "Why don't you do us all a favor and get lost? The mansion is mine, Chloe is mine, and this company is mine." A smug smile played on his lips. He clearly saw himself as the victor. "You're a pathetic clown," he sneered at me. "If I were you, I'd find a hole to crawl into. I can't believe you have the nerve to show your face." The crowd looked on, shocked. They probably never imagined that Chloe, the famously devoted wife, was having an affair. I ignored them and looked directly at her. "Is that right, Chloe? Do you feel the same way?" Her gaze faltered, the lines on her forehead deepening. She sighed. "Ethan, I'm sorry. You can ask for anything you want. I laughed, a sound full of contempt. Ask for anything? Can you even afford to give me anything? Your company is on the verge of collapse. Before Chloe could answer, Leo burst out laughing. You still don't get it, do you? Chloe's company is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And you, like an idiot, gave her your savings to help. I didn't get angry. I just smiled. Leo, so you're the VP. So what? Do you own any equity in this company? Chloe could fire you tomorrow if she wanted to, and you're acting like you own the place. Chloe immediately jumped to his defense. Stop talking nonsense, Ethan, she snapped. I've given Leo half of my shares. He has more right to be VP than anyone. I laughed to myself. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 7, and she'd never offered me a single share. But for Leo, she'd hand over half the company. Fine by me. When the company goes bankrupt, the 2 majority shareholders can spend the rest of their lives paying off the debt. As if on cue, the security guard at the front desk called up to announce that some people from the court were here. Chloe's expression softened as she turned to Leo. That must be the lawyers I called, she explained gently. They're here to finalize the public filing for your shares. After this, you'll officially be the VP. Seeing my silence, Leo assumed I'd been defeated. He laughed arrogantly. Ethan, soon I'll be the owner of a publicly traded company, and you'll be nothing but a pathetic loser. The handsome, popular guy from college, look at you now. If you beg, maybe I'll consider giving you a job. Chloe looked at me with a serious expression. Ethan, if you apologize right now, we can pretend today never happened. I just shook my head. The crowd looked on with amusement, expecting a fight to break out. But what happened next caught everyone by surprise. A group of uniformed officers walked through the door. Which one of you is Chloe Vance? The lead officer asked. You've been served. You are ordered to repay the debt owed to Ethan Miller immediately. Failure to do so will result in the freezing of your assets and the seizure of this company. The entire room went dead silent, every eye turning to Chloe. Perfect timing, I thought to myself. I'd have to buy Mr. Davis a nice dinner when this was all over. Took a long moment for Chloe to snap out of her shock. She tried to remain composed, frowning at me. Ethan, is this your idea of a joke? What is wrong with you today? Are you determined to make a scene? I had to laugh. She actually thought I'd hired actors to do this. Leo rolled his eyes and actually stepped forward, clapping one of the officers on the shoulder. Hey buddy, where'd you rent the costumes? They look pretty authentic. How much is Ethan paying you for this little performance? Before I could say a word, the officer fixed Chloe with a stern gaze. Ma'am, are you the registered agent of this corporation? If the outstanding debt is not transferred to Mr. Miller's account within 3 business days, we will proceed with enforcement. This company will be seized. He then presented his official credentials. Leo froze, turning to Chloe with a look of confusion. Chloe, he stammered, is this for real? Chloe's hands were clenched so tightly her nails were digging into her palms, but she didn't seem to notice. She was worldly enough to know these officers were legitimate. She just couldn't figure out what debt they were talking about. Then, a thought seemed to strike her. Her eyes shot daggers at me. So that's why you had me write that IOU yesterday, to set me up. Well played, Ethan. Well played. She turned back to the officers. You must have made a mistake. The IOU was signed yesterday. There's no way it could be due for collection today. The officer replied coldly, Ms. Vance, if you wish to dispute this, you can take it up with your attorney. We're leaving now. Chloe cried out, but they didn't stop. She whirled around to face me, her brow furrowed. The IOU from yesterday? You're demanding payment today? Do you find this funny? I replied calmly, oh, this isn't about yesterday. This is for the first loan, the $10 million. The invisible sword that had been hanging over her head for years had finally fallen. The tragedy was, she didn't even know it was there. She still thought she was in control. She sighed with exasperation. All right, Ethan, stop joking around. When did I ever owe you $10 million? I just borrowed $5 million yesterday. Do you have any idea how illegal it is to forge a promissory note? You know how much trouble the company is in. Is this really the time for jokes? She paused, her features relaxing slightly. Besides, you would never actually demand money from me. Look, I'll give you 10% of the company's shares. Is that enough? She looked at me reluctantly, a hint of accusation in her eyes, as if this was a massive concession on her part. Leo let out a sigh of relief and sneered. Someone's going to a lot of trouble for a prank. Aren't you afraid of getting arrested? Seeing the genuine confusion on Chloe's face, I knew. She had truly forgotten about the original loan. It was laughable, really. She had forgotten her promise. forgotten how she'd held me and sworn she would never let me down. No wonder she could favor Leo so openly, giving me fake after fake without a hint of guilt. I snapped back to the present and let out a cold laugh. Chloe, you really do have a short memory. Have you forgotten where you got your startup capital? Chloe answered without a moment's hesitation. From my own hard work, of course. Her voice trailed off as a realization seemed to dawn on her, her face turning pale. Leo, oblivious, just scoffed. What, you think it came from you? When Chloe and I broke up, she told me she was going to make it on her own, to prove she was worthy of me. If you weren't useful for something, you think she would have put up with you all this time? Chloe suddenly grabbed Leo's arm. That's enough, Leo. Stop it, she whispered urgently. I just smiled. Oh, really? That's quite a story. Then, I pulled out the perfectly preserved promissory note. In that case, what's this? The onlookers were having the time of their lives, their heads swiveling back and forth. Staring at her own, slightly less practiced signature on the note, Chloe's expression darkened. She took a deep breath. Ethan, calm down. Let's talk about this. You know the company's cash flow is tight right now. She was being discreet, not wanting to cause a panic among the employees. But I knew the truth. The company was barely breaking even. They couldn't handle a single unexpected expense, let alone a $10 million debt collection. Leo, however, was still clueless. He scoffed. Please, it's only $10 million. What's the big deal? This company's revenue is in the billions. You think we're worried about that? He then yelled out, Finance! Cut Ethan a check right now. We can't have this outsider thinking we're broke. Shut up. Chloe's face contorted with rage. She practically spat the words at Leo. It was probably the first time he had ever seen her look at him with such cold fury. Stung by her tone, he pouted and turned his anger back on me. Chloe, I'm just telling the truth. Don't tell me you still have feelings for this guy. He's a leech. Why are you defending him? I was tired of this whole charade. You two had better figure out how to get me my money in 3 days, I said coldly. Chloe bit her lip so hard I could see a drop of blood. She stepped forward and took my arm, her voice suddenly soft. Ethan, we've been together for so long. This company is our baby, isn't it? Can you really bear to destroy it? Okay, I know I went too far. You just want the VP job back, right? I'll tell Leo to step down, okay? Let him. Anyone listening would think I was the one stealing his job. I laughed coldly and yanked my arm away from her. I brushed off my sleeve as if her touch had contaminated it. Save it, Chloe. If that 10 million isn't in my account, I'll see you in court. Without a backward glance at her stunned face, I turned and walked out. I had already arranged to stay with my best friend for a few days. A short while later, I was standing outside his apartment building with my suitcase. My friend, Ryan Carter, was already waiting. He grabbed my bag with a grin. Well, if it isn't Mr. Whipped, to what do I owe the pleasure? I managed a small smile. Hey, didn't you say you wanted to start your own company? How about I help you with that? Back when my company with Chloe was taking off, Ryan had wanted to invest, but Chloe had been against the idea, so we dropped it. Later, Ryan had considered starting a similar business himself but decided against it, worried it would make us competitors and ruin our friendship. Now, he had the capital and I had the expertise. It was a perfect match. Ryan's expression turned serious. Wait, Ethan, what's going on? Talk to me. Did Chloe do something? I was silent for a moment before giving him the short version of the story. Bam! Ryan slammed his fist on the table. That woman is unbelievable, he roared. How dare she lie to you like that? I told you to think twice before giving her all your savings. I thought you two were happy all these years. I can't believe she'd pull something like this. Before I could even get a word in, he was off, the words tumbling out of him in a rush. I knew there was something off about that Leo guy from the start. Don't you remember? 2 days before your wedding, I saw him on his knees, begging Chloe for something. I told you then that something wasn't right. The memory came flooding back. He was right. I had confronted Chloe about it, but she had just looked at me with that earnest expression of hers. Ethan, don't you trust me? She'd asked. Yes, Leo came to see me, but I turned him down. If you're going to believe your friend over me and doubt me like this, then maybe we should just call off the wedding. Back then, I was so terrified she'd leave me that I spent hours apologizing and reassuring her. It even caused a rift between me and Ryan for a while. Looking back now, all the signs were there. I sighed, took a long swallow of beer, and crushed the empty can in my fist before tossing it in the trash. I waved my hand dismissively. Forget it, it's in the past. Let's talk about starting that company. Just then, my phone buzzed. A quick glance showed Chloe's name on the screen. I was about to decline the call, but Ryan snatched the phone and answered it. You've got some nerve calling him, he slurred, ready for a fight. But the voice on the other end wasn't calm and collected. It was Chloe, her voice trembling and unsteady. "You're not home? All your things are gone. You promised you'd stay with me forever. How could you break your promise?" I let out a bitter laugh. Stay with her forever? Yes, that's what I had wanted. I had treated her like she was the most precious thing in the world. And what did I get in return? Lies. Everything was a lie. Her trembling voice continued in my ear. "Ethan, come back. Please, come back and I'll sign the house over to you. And the marriage certificate. We can go get a real one. We can fix everything, okay?" A sarcastic smile touched my lips. Even if she was willing, there was no way Leo would give up what he had. It was obvious this was just a desperate ploy to get me back. And I knew exactly why she was so desperate. I took the phone from Ryan. "Chloe, I'm not withdrawing the lawsuit," I said calmly. "Prepare for bankruptcy." Her voice rose in panic. "You think this is about the company? How can you think that? Don't our 7 years together mean anything? Does it all come down to a piece of paper?" She paused, then stammered, "Why won't you withdraw it? Just tell me what you want." Her question was so absurd that even Ryan, listening in, burst out laughing. Ryan roared with laughter before grabbing the phone. You're not worthy of him," he sneered into the receiver. "You think this company succeeded because of you? If it wasn't for Ethan busting his ass day and night, you would have lost everything years ago." He wasn't finished. "And by the way, Ethan and I are starting our own company. We'll be your competition. Oh wait, I forgot. By then, your company might not even exist anymore." On the other end of the line, Chloe's voice turned cold and sharp. "Ryan, this is between me and Ethan. You have no right to interfere. You're the one who made him doubt me in the first place. And now you're trying to stir up trouble again." She then switched back to her old, condescending tone, speaking to me as if Ryan wasn't there. "Ethan, haven't I told you to stay away from bad influences like Ryan? He'll be the ruin of you. Now be a good boy and come home. That brooch I won for you at the auction just arrived. You can come try it on." I had to laugh. Did she really think I was just throwing a tantrum? That some shiny trinket could make me forget everything? Did she still think I was the same man who once adored her? "Chloe," I said, my voice ice cold, "what right do you have to tell me what to do? Are you my creditor? A stranger? Or are you Leo Harrison's wife?" My words hit their mark. I heard her sharp intake of breath. She suppressed her anger and spoke slowly. "I know that's what you can't get over. But right before our wedding, Leo had a breakdown. He was suicidal. When I got to him, he was on the edge of a roof, threatening to jump if I didn't agree to marry him. Ethan, it was a man's life on the line. He'd kill himself if she didn't marry him? Did she even hear how ridiculous that sounded? The truth was probably that she panicked because she still had feelings for him. She paused, then continued, "I had promised to marry him, back when we were together. You know I'm not one to break a promise. But I swear, Ethan, nothing ever happened between us. I never cheated on you." I cut her off. "Enough. I don't care. Don't contact me again, Chloe. I wish you and Leo a long and happy life together." "I mean it." That finally broke her. Her voice, tinny over the phone, rose to a shriek. "How can you say that? I'm your wife. Ethan, have you made your point? Are you done with this nonsense?" I rolled my eyes. Unbelievable. She was so clever when she was plotting against me, but now she couldn't understand simple English? It was too late for that. I didn't say another word. I just hung up. 2 days later, Mr. Davis called. Chloe couldn't produce the funds, so the court had frozen her accounts and transferred the $10 million to me. Her company's cash flow was severed. It was effectively finished. "She didn't sell the car or the house?" I asked. Mr. Davis sighed. "Her husband, Leo, refused to part with them. I don't know what he said to her, but in the end, she decided to take on all the debt herself." I had to laugh. I guess it was true love after all. Even now, knowing what kind of person he was, she was still protecting him. But what did that have to do with me? My expression hardened. "By the way," I said, "I have one more promissory note. When it comes due, I'll need you to file another suit for me." Mr. Davis looked at me with a newfound respect. This would be the final nail in their coffin, ensuring they could never get back on their feet. After leaving the law firm, Ryan and I went location scouting for our new company and quickly signed a lease on a great office space. I thought that would be the end of it, that I would never have to cross paths with Chloe or Leo again. But then, somehow, Chloe made a comeback. Her company, which had been on the brink of collapse, was suddenly revived with a mysterious infusion of cash. I had to admit that was a testament to her resourcefulness. It was what it was. I had gotten what was mine, and the rest was out of my hands. 3 months later, I ran into her at an industry conference. She was wearing a couture gown, leaning delicately on Leo's arm like a pampered trophy wife. If I hadn't seen it myself, I never would have believed the sharp, commanding CEO I once knew could transform into this. I rolled my eyes and tried to walk past, but she stepped directly into my path, blocking my way. She looked up at me, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "What's the matter, Ethan?" she said coldly. "Feeling guilty? Trying to avoid me? Guilty? Who exactly was the guilty one here? If it isn't the famous Ms. Vance," I said coolly. "Speaking of which, when can I expect you to repay that $5 million loan? Don't forget, I'm charging maximum interest." Chloe tilted her chin up, meeting my gaze. "I'll get you your petty cash. I suppose you haven't heard? I've partnered with a major international firm. They're providing me with unlimited funding. Only someone with your limited vision would quibble over a little interest." Wait, unlimited funding? That sounded like a classic scam, but it wasn't my problem. I had no intention of getting involved. "Oh," I said, "if you're so flush with cash, why haven't you paid me back yet?" With a look of disdain, she pulled out her phone, tapped the screen a few times, and a second later, a notification for a $5 million transfer popped up on my own phone. Before I could react, Leo, who had his arm wrapped around her waist, couldn't resist gloating. He laughed contemptuously. "Ethan, making such a fuss over $5 million. So pathetic. I hear you started a new company. How's that going? If you run out of cash, get on your knees and beg. I might consider forgiving you and throwing a little investment your way." I gave Leo a skeptical look. Chloe's arrogance was one thing, but Leo looked like he'd just won the lottery. He had expensive watches on both wrists, and his suit was adorned with a gaudy, diamond-encrusted brooch and cufflinks. It would be one thing if their company was thriving, but they had just narrowly avoided bankruptcy. Where was all this cash coming from? Seeing my skeptical expression, Leo cleared his throat. "What, you don't believe me? I've got 50 million in markers in Las Vegas, and I'm just getting started. You'll never be in my league." Las Vegas? That explained it. He was a gambler. I remembered what Mr. Davis had said about them refusing to sell the house and car. They must have mortgaged them for gambling money. Too bad the house always wins. I wanted nothing to do with them. "No, thank you," I said calmly. "I prefer to earn my money honestly." They looked like they were about to say more, but just then, a slender hand slipped into the crook of my arm. My assistant, Olivia Moore, was slightly out of breath. "Sorry, Mr. Miller," she whispered. "I broke a heel and had to fix it in the restroom." Olivia was a recent graduate, but she was incredibly competent. I admired her work ethic and brought her with me to most industry events. I smiled. "It's no problem. Let's go." Olivia nodded. Her eyes scanned my suit, and noticing my tie was slightly askew, she reached up and straightened it for me. It was part of her cover story. Pretending to be my girlfriend often made it easier for her to network with contacts from other firms. I was about to thank her when the sharp sound of shattering glass cut through the air. I turned toward the sound. Chloe had shattered the wine glass she was holding in her right hand. A dark red liquid, wine or blood or both, dripped onto the polished floor. Chloe seemed oblivious to the pain, her eyes fixed on Olivia. Her voice was dangerously cold. "Ethan," she said, her words clipped and sharp. "Who is she?" Olivia looked completely bewildered. I stepped in front of Olivia, shielding her. "She's my girlfriend," I said calmly. "Is there a problem? Does Ms. Vance object to me seeing other people?" The rims of Chloe's eyes turned a deep red. Leo was a beat behind, but then he saw her hand, embedded with shards of glass. "Chloe," he cried out, "I'll get a medic. Don't move." He rushed off into the crowd. But Chloe didn't seem to notice. She was like a malfunctioning robot, her eyes locked on me. After a long, silent moment, she finally spoke, her voice hoarse. "Impossible." I wasn't sure what she meant, but then her expression shifted, clearing as if she'd convinced herself of something. A triumphant look entered her eyes. "You couldn't have found a new girlfriend in just 3 months. You knew I'd be here tonight. You just hired her to make me jealous, didn't you?" I frowned. "Ms. Vance, I'd appreciate it if you didn't flatter yourself." But it was as if she hadn't heard me. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small jade pendant. She dangled it from her finger. "All right, Ethan, stop the act," she said, her tone condescending. "It's been 3 months. Isn't this game getting old? You remember this, don't you? You left it behind so I wouldn't forget. Fine, I admit it. You're important to me." Her voice softened. "Come home, just come home, and I'll forgive you for all this." I stared at the small jade charm. It was a stone we had found on a trip when we were first in love. I had polished it into a smooth charm for her as a symbol of our affection. It wasn't high-quality jade, full of imperfections, but she had always treasured it. The only reason I hadn't taken it with me when I left was because she kept it locked in her personal safe, and I couldn't get it open. I had made a point of destroying every other memento of our time together. I never thought I'd see it again. I lowered my gaze and reached out, taking the jade pendant from her hand. Her eyes lit up with a triumphant smile. "I knew it," she murmured. Her words died in her throat. The only sound was the sharp crack of the jade pendant as it hit the marble floor. Staring at the shattered pieces, Chloe looked at me, her face a mask of pure disbelief. She stood frozen like a statue. I didn't care how she felt. I, on the other hand, felt great. I just smiled casually. "Oh, my mistake. I forgot to throw that piece of junk out. Thanks for bringing it to me." With that, I motioned for Olivia to leave with me. But as I turned, Chloe lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Her bloody hand left a crimson print on my sleeve. I thought she was angry that I had publicly humiliated her again. But to my surprise, her face was a mask of pure panic. Her voice was almost pleading. "Ethan, please don't. You don't like this one? That's fine. I'll buy you a new one, a better one. Just please don't be like this." I tilted my head. What was she talking about? She continued to babble, tears suddenly streaming down her face. She sounded like a lost child. "You were never like this before. You would never have just stood there while I was hurt. You were never this cold. You used to only have eyes for me." I laughed in her face. What fantasy world was she living in? Did she really think she could have it both ways? She seemed to have lost her mind, rambling on. "Ethan, please, just be like you were before. You can have all my money. We can go to a realtor right now. I'll buy you the best house on the market." I frowned and pried her bloody hand off my arm. "Ms. Vance, we're adults. Don't you know when to let go?" She flinched, more from my words than the pain, and stared at me, dumbfounded. Just then, Leo returned with the medics. Seeing Chloe's tear-streaked face, he lunged at me, grabbing my collar. "Ethan, you just don't know when to quit. If I ever see you bothering my woman again, I swear I'll kill you." Here we go again, I thought, rolling my eyes. This cheap gangster act, this arrogant macho posturing. I'll never understand what Chloe saw in this crude, pathetic man. I just said calmly, "Leo, are you aware that there's a police detail at this event?" His eyes were wild. He wasn't listening. He just sneered. "The police? You think you can scare me with the police? You think I'm afraid of them?" I looked past his shoulder at the uniformed officers now walking toward us. "The police are here," I said flatly. "Still playing games. I'll show you." His fist, raised to strike me, was caught in a firm grip. A moment later, his hands were cuffed behind his back. Nearby, another officer was restraining Chloe as a medic tried to tend to her hand. The lead officer spoke, his voice firm. "Leo Harrison, Chloe Vance, you're both under arrest for illegal gambling activities. You need to come with us." I learned the full story from the news later. Chloe's unlimited funding had come from loan sharks, and Leo had gotten himself involved in organized crime. They both got what they deserved. 3 years later, Chloe got out of prison, but she was saddled with insurmountable debt. She ended up living a miserable existence, running a small street cart to get by. As for Leo, he never learned his lesson. He gambled away everything he had and eventually just disappeared. Meanwhile, the company Ryan and I started was thriving. We were on the verge of going public. We stood for a photo in front of our new headquarters. To my left was my best friend, Ryan Carter. To my right was the woman I loved, Olivia Moore. My heart was at peace. The future, I thought, looked just as bright.